Welcome, everybody, to a new episode of the Pondcast. Today's episode, Artist Alley with Professor Kauri's art. I'm your host, Draco, and joining me today is Guren.
Hello.
And joining us is a new mystery guest. Mystery guest, please introduce yourself.
Kia ora, everyone. I'm Professor Kauri. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
so we've been hearing a lot about you from one of our other guests, X, and we've been able to check out some of your artwork, and a lot of it is really impressive.
Thank you.
As a matter of fact, some of our viewers got a sneak peek of some of the stuff with our new thumbnail that was graciously done by you and greatly appreciated.
Definitely. Happy to help, man.
But we were actually able to get a good sampling of a lot of your artwork, and we were floored by it. So much so that Chase, who unfortunately could not be here, brought it to our attention and said, actually work this timing down so that we could actually go ahead and do a recording with you. And so I know one of the questions that always comes up is, when you came up with some of these designs, what's your process in picking out a Pokemon and then putting your own spin on it?
So for some of these, well, I guess when I first made my channel, I actually didn't intend to create any Pokemon designs at all. I had been planning just to go the route of doing Pokemon theories, and it was not long after starting my channel, Dusty Gogo got in touch with me about doing some art for him, and he started talking to me about my video ideas, and I shared this theory video that I had, which would be Terramax Pokemon, and he was like, "Oh, you should totally draw some up. Like, you're an artist, and you could just, if you added the art to it to show what it could look like, that could make a real big difference in the video." I was like, "Oh, I'll give it a go." Like, I've never really considered it before, despite loving drawing Pokemon. And sort of at random just perused the Scarlet and Violet Pokedex and was like, this one feels like it needs an evolution, this one feels like it could do with an upgrade. And then I just ended up having too much fun putting it together, and then I've just kind of like gone all out on going, okay, cool, how can I add new designs and stuff to my other videos to kind of showcase visually the possibilities I'm talking about. The Terramax one initially was a case of, I kind of did like the first 3 Pokemon that I felt needed something extra, and I did ask a couple people for some suggestions as well, but like Scovillain was a real quick pick for me because it felt like they forgot to implement a 3rd evolution. But beyond that, I ended up getting a lot of suggestions from commenters as well, so I've gone through and I've done a bunch based off of their cool suggestions. One of my recent ones to do with a future Paradox Mew that was a patron's suggestion, and then I've done one more to do with one that I called Eevee Lou, which was for a theory video that I did, and I'm currently in the process of doing a bunch more art for a connecting video that's going to be coming up. So it's haphazard, really. Some suggestions, some just like, I feel like that needs a bit more, and others are tied to specific ideas. So yeah, choosing the Pokemon is kind of the hardest part for me because they're all just fun to draw. So yeah.
That's cool. What medium do you normally use? Is this Photoshop? Is this Illustrator? Is this something that you've painted with art supplies and then scanned in?
So this is from the iPad app Procreate, and so I discovered that app a couple years ago. Someone had asked me to illustrate a children's picture book for them, and I wasn't liking using like a Wacom drawing tablet anymore because my laptop wasn't playing nicely with it. But I had an iPad with me, and so I found that, and I've really enjoyed using that. It's felt a lot closer to when I used to just draw pencil to paper. And so it's just 100% that one app now for, at least for the drawing part. I do then take it into Photoshop for some of my, like, for adding text and backgrounds to it, for posting on social media, but the art side of it is purely in that.
Definitely looks good. I'm definitely a fan. I'm not gonna lie. There was a small selection that Chase put together for us to take a look at. Was there anyone or two, or any couple in particular that you really appreciated as far as what was given to us?
The first two for sure that I can think of that drew me in was the Terra Max form of the Garchomp and the future. I'm assuming it's a future Paradox form of Mew. Those two really like grabbed my attention, that like out of that whole like collage of pictures that he sent or that he showed us. And like, okay, so as someone who's also like a dragon type fan, like the Garchomp itself was already pretty nuts. I think we spoke about it previously a little bit, looking at these images, and like it was a really cool idea. I think it was incorporated, but was it like an icebreaker kind of thing on it? Like, I thought that was like a pretty neat thing, making it to like head crest like a little bit different compared to like how it kind of reminds you of like a Sharpedo, right? Because like I think that's where like they both have that star symbol. So like having like that icebreaker looking thing over there was already pretty nuts, and then giving it more of an aquatic vibe as well compared to it being like a land shark was also a very nice idea. And then the Iron Sequencer, I think you mentioned earlier it was a request from somebody, right?
Yeah, it was a patron request, yeah.
Yeah. So like when I first saw it, I was a little bit confused at like the picture itself until I noticed that what I thought was still the tail was actually more of like a umbilical cord kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like I thought, oh wait, that's actually such a sick idea, with like how, you know, like Mew is basically like the mother of all Pokemon, or basically just had like the DNA for every Pokemon, right?
Essentially, yeah.
So it's like it's pretty cool to see like this cord thing that leads to the outside. It makes me feel like some kind of like info or like skin or some kind of like DNA kind of thing like into it. It'll pick up on that, and I don't know, maybe it'll be able to like process it or like read it or something like that. So that's just like what really stuck out to me for that one specifically.
Yeah, those two in particular have been some of the ones that I've liked the most out of my most recent ones. Like with the Garchomp one, that one, as soon as the suggestion came in, I'm like, I was like, okay, this is 100% going to be like a water predator. Like, can't be anything but, in my mind, is like, I've always liked the idea of having an ocean-based counterpart. And it was a lot of fun trying to go like, how do I keep it looking purely Garchomp, but removing the dragon-esque aspects of its design, like as far as Pokemon's idea of dragons goes, which is a lot of spikes and certain color palettes usually, but kind of remove a bit of that without losing Garchomp, and then adding in some more aquatic stuff. And yeah, I wanted to not just go purely, like you said, I didn't want to go purely marine life, but yeah, add in some boat-like aspects to it. And it was like the video I did recently where I shared these on it as well for my YouTube viewers. I mentioned in there, like, aside from like having never drawn any of these Pokemon before, so I particularly normally don't draw creatures that are as edgy and angular as Garchomp. Like, normally I'm drawing like the cute and cuddly sort of stuff, and so that one was just an absolute ball of fun to do, and thoroughly enjoyed putting that together, because it felt like a completely new experience trying to bring such a different type of character to life. And yeah, Mew was technically the patron just requested Mew to be like, I was like, do you want Mew as Mew, or do you want Mew as an alternate form? And they were like, oh, an alternate form. I'm like, okay, cool. Decided I wanted to go to the Future Paradox version because of the whole like having the DNA of every Pokemon like that. I was like, I want to lean into that part of its Pokedex descriptions. And so I sort of saw it as kind of like a genetic storage system, where it's like you could input and output different types of genetic materials. And so I kind of imagined it, you could like take new genetic materials, give it to that, it can store it, and then it can output the requested, I guess, genes to create new Pokemon life from whatever it had installed.
I definitely like the naming convention that you went with that one, and the overall look of Iron Sequencer is really it is really cool. It's actually one of the ones that I actually navigated to myself. And as far as the Garchomp, utilizing keeping the scythe hands, but adding fins to it, I think was a stroke of brilliance. Personally, it's so very subtle, but it definitely changes how you view this particular design. Like it automatically screams that this is not the same Garchomp you're used to. and I can definitely, I do like the color choice that you went with this, because it definitely leans more into the aquatic nature of it. For me though, the two of the ones that really struck me was Eevee, because Guren will tell you, me and him are both huge Eevee fans and Evolution fans, and this one is one that I gravitate to because it's one of the Pokemon that my wife and I bonded over. When we first started seeing each other, I got her into Pokemon, and Eevee was one of the ones that she jumped all over because it was just after they announced the Fairy type Eevee. The Dunsparce looks insane, and I love it.
And you went with a bug dragon with it too, so that was...
Yeah, it's definitely one of those that really just screams, look at me, now run.
Yeah. I'll start with the Dunsparce. That was the first Pokemon design that I drew, and when I was sitting down to do this, like I've always loved Dunsparce, and I thought the Dunsparce was very comical. But I was like, okay, well, I had enough people suggest this one when I've been like asking around for different possibilities. I really like this Pokemon. It would be fun to see it finally become a little bit more of a threat visually. And initially, with my Terramax forms, the idea of it was to give them two completely new forms unrelated to what they had. So not just a slight change in type, but giving it two new types to draw inspiration from. And due to its segmented body, I thought Bug type worked really well. And it was interesting to look at Dunsparce and then look at all the other Pokemon Dragon designs and going, how do I incorporate Dragon and Bug into this form? And it took a little bit of playing around, but I was super happy with how it came out. I actually designed it originally with its regular Dunsparce colors, which I then made its shiny form, which I liked those colors much better. I'm not sure why. Yeah, it was a huge amount of fun to put together that one.
No, the colors for your shiny version work so well. The standard colors just it doesn't look as dangerous or as threatening, because everyone knows what those what Dunsparce looks like, and those colors are just so meh. Even with a giant stinger, I'm looking at the standard colors and I'm like, eh. But when I look at your shiny, how you presented it and the colors, and it's now because of the reds, the dark green. Yeah, no. That this is that's a really cool looking Pokemon. Run, just run.
I can agree. Yep.
Yeah. It's been quite fun as I've been doing these different Terramax forms and playing around with colors and just seeing like exactly how much a color changes the entire vibe of a Pokemon. Like you were saying with the Garchomp, adapting its dark color scheme a bit more into the blues and stuff like that instantly takes it away from Dragon and throws it into the deep ocean sort of thing.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, it definitely does.
Yeah. So the other one you mentioned, being Eevee, that one probably took me the longest to think about, because it was based around a theory that I was doing. And the basis of the theory was that the original beast in the burned tower that became Suicune, Raikou, and Entei were originally this creature, Eevee, and Eevee had the ability to change its type at will, and when it did, it also changed its forms, and Suicune, Entei, and Raikou are the water, fire, and electric forms of Eevee. And when Ho-Oh rescued them, it had to stabilize their DNA, and so they permanently became one of those forms. So I wanted to create a design that felt very close to Eevee as far as the soft gentleness of it, but also lean itself towards, this could feasibly change into one of these three other Pokemon. And the other aspect of it, which is for an upcoming video, is that the theory then goes forward from that point in time where Eevee at the towards the point of the burnt towel, where it had gotten quite old, but its offspring were now becoming Eevee, and it was like kind of like digressing in power from a legendary status to an Poke status. But it branched out and produced 2 different Pokemon. Eevee was one of them, and the other one, which the artwork will be next video that I'm working on right now, is called Elu, which effectively looks like Eevee, but it's more upright with larger back legs and is a physical type fighter, whereas Eevee has so far always been based on the special energy types. And so I'm kind of connecting it up with the theory from Generation 3, I think it was, where types had a physical or special category that they belonged into. So Eevee only having its dragon form left to fulfill all of the special types, and then Elu brings in new forms for all of the physical types. And so not only did I have to make Eevee-Lu similar to Eevee, similar to the beast, but also thinking design-wise down to Elu, like what's the half and half part between Eevee and Elu, like the physicality that this one Pokemon needs to hold both of. Yeah, so it was a lot of fun to kind of figure all that out. And then I gave it also a whole bunch of somewhat floating gems through its mane to kind of represent the different energy types. And I kind of imagined it similar to Arceus with the different plates, like we've seen in the anime, how it can bring the plates out, select the one that it wants, and it becomes a type. That Eevee would be similar, where it can shuffle around the different gems, and whichever one it places in its tiara, that's the form it changes into.
I can see some of the influence of Arceus on the hindquarters, where you've got the golden rings, and it's really a nice touch. The funny thing is as you're describing it and you're talking about the gems and how they would fit into the tiara, I'm sitting here thinking, yeah, that's pretty much exactly what I was thinking. He was going with this, and it is such a wonderful design, and honestly, I'm in love with it as well.
Same.
I mean, if there was one piece that you've done so far that you can talk about, because I know that you've probably got stuff working that you want to debut on your channel, but if there was one piece that you've done up to this point that you would say your favorite piece, what would that piece be?
I think one that holds a bit of a special place is the Kauri, the tournament. That one for me was kind of special because, like, we've been watching the Pokemon anime with my 2 boys who are 3 and 5 years old, and they've been loving Pokemon. And obviously, the Kauri gets a fairly big presence in Journeys. And so when I was doing that one, because I do most of my drawing at like time weather, so they don't see a lot of what I draw. But I happened to be working on that one during the day one day. I was just finishing it, and they popped around the side of my chair, and they got so absolutely excited to see it, and they were instantly just going like, Lucario, what did you do to it? That looks awesome. And I'd already been having a lot of fun drawing Lucario and trying to give it its dragon fairy blend, but just kind of having their enthusiasm, being able to look at it and get excited about it, and like, oh, what's this? Like, I haven't seen this version before. That to me was really special, and so it's kind of like it's instantly made that art piece one of my favorites.
I definitely like this one too. It actually looking at this one kind of reminded me of a concept I came up with. Although I have like zero artistic talent, my skills are in Photoshop and Illustrator personally. Seeing the Lucario the Dragon Fairy, and I'm just like, this is different, but I like this. The coloring, you can obviously at a glance see that it's Lucario, but because of that coloring, you also know there's something very different about this Lucario, and I like the fact that you made a Dragon Fairy as opposed to fighting Steel.
Yeah, it was quite fun to be able to like completely switch types in Lucario with that. It was like particularly with like, it feels a lot easier to do something here dragon typing when it looked less like a mammal. Trying to figure out how do you subtly give off a dragon vibe while also showing off its kind of counterpart in fairy was interesting. The ethereal wings that I ended up going for were actually inspired by the angels from the Diablo game series. It was one of the first things I thought of.
Oh yeah, I thought they looked familiar.
That's cool.
I thought that looked familiar. I haven't played Diablo in forever.
Yeah, I've got the my brother actually gave me Diablo 4, and so I've been playing through the beta and stuff like that, and so like it was like well in the forefront of my mind when I went to design the Kauri.
I also like the long tail that you've given it too. It does lend to that dragon-esque feel that most people tend to associate with, although you've made it in such a way that it could easily have just been mistaken of Lucario being more jackal-like with that longer tail.
Yeah, I actually took someone's art piece of a dragon and kind of had that off to the side, and I kind of like used its rough posing for the inspiration for this one here. I did actually sketch it up initially with webbed dragon wings, as I was kind of like trying to get that posture down, because I wanted to kind of have a bit of a posture of like in the moment of like restrained power, but also just kind of being like elevated in the air sort of thing, like something's about to go down that's very bad, and this is kind of like that brief moment before everything goes wrong.
Yeah, I definitely see that.
Just the question on like the typings that you came up with, was it you made for at least the ones that we have here, did you come up with the typings first and then you made the drawings, or is it just one of those like you made the drawings first and then the typings came in? Like what was the thought process going into the some of these?
Yeah, definitely typings, but I mean probably the only one I didn't do that was Mew. I was like, for Mew, I was just like, I have the idea for what I want its robot form to look like. I'll figure the typings out later. It doesn't seem to matter hugely with future Paradox Pokemon. They all look like robots, and it's going to be Steel something sort of thing. So I was like, I'll deal with that secondary typing later. As long as it looks like Mew, then it'll work. All the other ones, definitely types first, and so specifically. And what I would actually normally do for these, unless I was giving them like a really big form change, like my Scovillain has a very different physique to its normal form, but a lot of the others I would actually draw them, like I'd sketch them up as they actually as their normal forms actually look like, to make sure I'm the right physique and dimensions and stuff, and then I'd begin erasing the bits that I was like, okay, well I'm not using that type anymore, so I'll remove the aspects that are that typing. And then I'll add in details and stuff to bring out the new type. So yeah, I essentially take the original Pokemon and then I'm kind of like removing and adding bits to it for the types that I've chosen until it feels right.
I like this. I like that.
Yeah, because like I was looking at the pictures of the three Paldean starters here that you made, and like I was wondering how you were thinking about for the typings. At first I thought it was like, oh, you're just gonna go with like maybe the typing, like maybe like one of their typings are weak to something, from like what I see here, like you have like the electric Quaquaval, the dark Skeledirge, and like a fairy Meowscarada. So I was wondering where the thought process was on those ones. So
yeah, so for the starters, I threw out the whole type triangle completely. And for them, I essentially had an extra step for them because they are themed around dance, essentially opera, and magic. I wanted to keep that theming in their new types, and so I actually first looked into what's a different type of dance that's more fitting for the region, what's a different type of opera, what's a different type of, well, in this case for magic it wasn't really what's a different type of magic, it was like let's make it more magic, less illusion. And so I played around with those thoughts first to get an idea of what to do. So for Quaquaval, I designed it, I wanted to design it based off of some of the dresses that are used in Spain and some of their dances that are very form-fitting but then flourish out at the bottom. Skeledirge, I very quickly figured out I wanted to give a Phantom of the Opera.
Oh, okay. That explains the half alert base. Okay.
Yeah, it just hit me as you said it. I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. I like it. I like it.
And then for Meowscarada, I was like, the whole thing with Meowscarada's dark type is illusion and sleight of hand essentially, and I was like, well, I want to take that to be actual seemingly magic, And so for that one, I kind of went straight into the types for that one, where I was like, well, the best type combination for that is going to be Psychic Fairy. Both of those give abilities to levitate things, and my Mind Fairy type can make things sparkle and dazzle, that sort of stuff. And so I looked at kind of like some ideas for magicians' outfits and things like that on how I could adapt the sort of clothing look of Meowscarada to have a bit more of a traditional magician's outfit.
Again, like we said before, like we got shown these arts and they're so good, and I would love being able to. I think you're actually the first artist we've been able to actually have on the show, and we've been able to just have this really great back and forth of just getting into your thought process, your creative flow, and this has been a treat. This has been an absolute treat. It's been wonderful to have you.
Yeah,
It's been really great being on and being able to have a chat with you guys. It's been really cool.
And with that brings our episode to a close. What are your thoughts about the designs that the great professor here brought to us today? Any of them speak to you? I'll post his information down below so you can go check out his links, his channels. Once again, thank you, Professor, for joining us.
Thank you for having me on.
It's great having you.
And also, let us know how we're doing. Be sure to share, like, and subscribe. And as always, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Alola.
See you later.